Let's focus, Dr. Velumani, on the immediateness of this issue. Of course, the investment will happen in the medium term. In the long term, the policy interventions will help. In my private conversations with Sunil, which are very often, we talk about policy consistency and the fact that there has to be a policy certainty, and not just in healthcare, but in every sector. If you know the variables, even if they're negative, it's okay. One can work around them. But if the variables are always moving, then it's difficult to be able to build a predictable business model. And investors like predictable business model. They like predictable variables. Okay, sounds oxymoronish, but there are too many unknowns, right? And with COVID coming in, those unknowns have been multiplied. What are the immediate solutions, Dr. Velumani, to save lives? What can the government do? What can the healthcare providers do? And what can the citizens do?
I think today we have a system where a daughter-in-law is responsible, but the key is with the mother-in-law. This is what we call
it. Who's the daughter-in-law and who's the mother-in-law?
State government is the daughter-in-law, central government is the mother-in-law, because they have the control, and it is told that health is a state subject. So this is a bit worrying, number one. Now we cannot tell may tu. That is not going to work. Secondly, everybody blames state governments, but half of them are ruled by the ruled party and half of them are ruled by the opposition party. So it's not truly making sense. It is very important, as I said in my earlier spell, resources are there in the country. We must pool the resources. In a company, MD is either powerful, or the board of directors are powerful, or the shareholders are powerful. Similarly, for healthcare also, either one individual says, I take responsibility and I drive it, or all opposition parties, consensus is driven and the decision is taken, or involve what you call as intellectuals and get solutions finalized on priorities. We lack priorities, Batra. It is not we lack materials, we lack resources. This country is a unique country. If you count, it is fifth in the GDP in the world. But if you look at the per capita income, it is not in 100. So what do you do with this? You can't compare it with Singapore. You can't compare it with any other country. So ours is a unique country. We can't copy anyone. This GDP is too less. So having said that, your question is, what immediate next? Immediate next is all get together, have every day evening 2 hours session. What is today's problem? How do we mitigate today's problem and solve the problem till the peak is over? But unfortunately,
and in your estimation, again, when do you think the peak will be there? In a week from now? Yesterday we are at almost 3.5 million numbers. I was watching a show on CNN. India is on the cover of Economist, of course, all for all the wrong reasons. Yesterday, CNN prime time, India on prime time, and being talked that it is 3.5 million, but possibly the number is more than 500,000. So tell us, when do you think we'll peak?
No, I don't think, Batra, I know truly an answer. Last year, September, when we reached 1,200 deaths per day, I thought it may touch 2,500. And I thought it would go till the end of November, but fortunately it came down immediately. I never expected it to go to so low. It went so low, we celebrated, exulted. Now
I remember you're in my conversation,
yes,
where you said
and
exactly
now today
this to me.
It is back.
And it was a better scenario than that. I remember that.
And we don't know whether this 3 lakh a day infections are 1,800 or 2,000 deaths per day. Is it over? If it is over, is it over only in Mumbai and Delhi? And let me tell you, this virus is not going to be very different behavior in different parts of the country. When these peaks are over, other small towns where today there is nothing is happening may peak. I have no clue to tell when is second peak over. It's very difficult.
Dr. Ruchiraj, I'm sure, because if you're a little away from the problem, you're in UK. The UK dealt with it in a certain way, and you lost a lot of lives. What are the immediate solutions? We know what we need to do in the medium term, in the long term. You outlined that, Sunil has outlined that, Vivek and Sudhir have outlined that. What do we do in the immediate, today and tomorrow?
So my starting comment is that my heart will always stay in India as much far I go. So my parents are in India, my all relatives are in India, so I think about India day in, day out. Now, immediate step right now, I want this mad rush to end. This is a mad rush right now. Why are patients, caretakers running around to manage oxygen cylinders or procure a vaccination or remdesivir or other remedies? Why there is no centralized resource scheduling system? Why government doesn't pass a mandate that all the hospitals in the country, private or public, will have to share data about resources available, plasma donors available, oxygen cylinder suppliers available, drug manufacturers and distributors available to them, and start reporting cases basis which they can triage who needs it more and who needs it lesser? Why we are still a state affair and we are just passing blame on each other, and every state is trying to crumble because they have less cooperation from the central government. So that is number one, centralized resource scheduling, so that we can get more visibility into demand, supply, needs, and resources available. Number two is predictive AI. Once you have data available, with even a little minuscule amount of data, you can have predictive AI forecast models like how is this going to peak? Something that we can't answer, but we can project with some form of accuracy. That is the need of the hour. And third is build resources. I mean, I'm sure that even if you put data, but the resources are depleted everywhere, companies like Vivek Srivastava is running, Fortia and several others who can set up a home ICU or probably provide a step-down ICU or even manage patients at home with some counseling and some guidance is the need of the hour. I mean, and this is not a very long-term job. It just takes government initiative, willingness, and some announcement so that everybody comes to the same page and starts sharing. So that's my 2 cents about what needs to be done immediately. In the longer term, we can always plan. But I've been a proponent of mobile health, what we call as digital health today, since 2007. And at those point in time, we used to sit in an ambulance with a satellite on the top and one round and one bump on the road, and the TV will go dark. I have been talking about telemedicine since then. I told the government and I've advocated policy at the national and international level. I have told people that, you will take 5 years to break even a hospital, but a telemedicine center breaks even in 1 year. Why don't we have more telemedicine center? Why Vivek Srivastava and his company do not come mainstream? So I think some of these things government need to answer and answer right now. And this is the time for action, not criticization. So I'm leaving on the table some valuable criticism that can be acted upon, rather than plain criticism and saying it's not my responsibility sitting here in UK.
Thank you. The whole idea is to be able to do conversations that bring out solutions and put some kind of positive pressure on the government. Mr. Sudhir Mishra, you've been for at least the last decade been talking about these things, like Dr. Ruchi has said for the last 14 years, she's been evangelizing telemedicine and the use of technology and digital in healthcare to be able to build capacity and to be able to take it to far-flung areas. What are your top 2-3 recommendations in terms of action to fix the short term and then to build for the medium and long term?
So to start with, I think communication network has to be established first. Complete lack of communication, which is our biggest problem. If you had such a wonderful communication in the starting of the pandemic last year, Joint Secretary, everybody remembers his name also, some Love Srivastava, who will come on TV at 3 o'clock and will talk to the nation. What I'm trying to understand is that you have crisis after crisis when people are moving with cylinders, hospitals are coming before courts, courts are being approached by lawyers, by hospitals directly, late night, midnight, early morning, and then Supreme Court takes a petition day for yesterday, and people who practice in the Supreme Court, they get worried that the High Courts will stop acting upon all the necessary things. This is all complete breakdown of our communication network. So as a country,
again, Dr. Ruchi said, and I'm not trying to play a blame game, but somebody needs to take ownership. Somebody needs to take responsibility. The buck needs to stop somewhere. So where does the buck stop?
So I think Prime Minister came day for yesterday, or he tried to assure the country. But you can imagine this extent of panic that today the Chief Justice of India's last day, in the morning, normal custom is that there will be no matter. Everybody will give a nice farewell to him. there'll be a very nice send-off to him. And what was the biggest apprehension in today morning? That some order should not be passed, which will curtail the role of different high courts across the country, which were trying to be the communicator in this crisis. So what I'm trying to say, we have come to a point of there is nothing except miscommunication. So whosoever is in charge, whether it's media, what people like you are trying to do, Anuragji, that you are coming here and you are devoting 1.5 hours only to get all the points together. I think government needs to hear and make sure that if chief ministers have to talk to the prime minister or health minister, that should be a communication which they should do seamlessly. They should not be asking Sudhir Mishra and Anurag Batra whom should I talk to if I want a cylinder or if I want a oxygen problem to be addressed. So we have gone to a very ad hoc regime suddenly in only 15 days. Now, if 15 days crisis can crumble us like this, I know lot many speakers have said that, look, this was a tsunami, this was an avalanche, and we understand we can't expect government or healthcare infrastructure to take the entire load. My point is the way we are communicating today. We need to assure from morning to night, from chief ministers to the prime minister of the country, all the communication has to happen, because somehow this message has gone that nobody's in charge.
Thank you for saying it as it is. And Vivek and Sunil, first Vivek and then Sunil. Vivek, what are the 2-3 action points that you have for us?
I think in the very short term, sir, the most important thing, as Sudhir said, is about while yes, the politicians talk, my sense is we can have the top medical people will trust in terms of medical knowledge, whether it's the AIIMS director or whether it is the top consultants in the country, coming and telling people that please don't panic. At least about 25-30% of the people who are on the road asking for cylinders or remdesivir or favipiravir or whatever are just panicked people. Out of all the people who get me, call, and call me and ask for emergency, I need A, B, C, D things, right? It is because they've heard it from someone. Someone has to tell that, look, this is the criteria. Medically speaking, if in the luxurious time, we would have said, let's say 95% se niche SP would have to run, right? But this is not luxury, right? So what is the new dimension? This is where you should be comfortable, ABC thing in your home, don't panic. As soon as you panic, and I've seen in my own house, my brother had a panic attack, his SpO2 moved to 81, right? I had to call a doctor and he just then pacified my brother. It came back to 97, 98 and didn't go anywhere else. Now I could have panicked myself and said, oh, let me take him and get him a cylinder or a concentrator or let him take to the hospital. One more bed, one more system, one more pressure on the system. So communicating that this is the situation where you don't need to panic. 85% of cases can be handled at home without much of much hue and cry, and services like ours or any other player who can manage these remotely just calm down the nerve. After that, there are 10% of the cases who require oxygen and only 5% would probably require more critical care, or out of that would require the remdesivirs of the world. If someone is able to tell them, right, everyone pushing doctors, write this, right? So if communication is clear, and then the other thing is the doctors are, they're doing a phenomenal job and they're being pushed by the people because of communication. Doctor भी कहता है ठीक है यार, इससे कुछ बुरा तो नहीं हो रहा है, लिख दो, लिख दिया, लिख दो, तुमको चाहिए ले लो, हाँ तुमको चाहिए, लिख दो, मेरी जान खा रहे हो, right? उससे क्या हो रहा है? 10x the requirement is being created. That is leading to more demand, less supply, prices going up, and I think Dr. Velumani talked about the poor. They will not go anywhere because they can't afford anything in that space. So I think then the next step is get as much oxygen capacity as possible outside of the hospital itself, right? Because tertiary care is blocked, right? If you create capacity there in oxygen, then it becomes a problem because everyone will block. The system has only so much resources. Create it outside. and do whatever it takes. If you have to charter flights to get concentrators, so be it. The government should just pick that up from China. There's no other player who can provide that. So forget about you being China, anti-China or whatever. Just get that. Get oxygen. If you are able to do that, you save a lot of lives just by providing the oxygen support, right?
I have to tell you this anti-China phobia. Yesterday, I don't know the name of the politician, but I did text to a junior BJP politician posted on Twitter saying Chinese supporter Sitaram Yechuri dies of a Chinese infested disease. I mean,
virus.
Do you get more heartless than this? I mean, what are we dealing with?
Just get more oxygen concentrators and oxygen, and get it outside of the hospital settings. Only let the people get triaged out of this and say, now you actually need an ICU. Now you actually need to put in Remdesivir, which by the way is not, open, as Dr. Velumani is also saying, right? These are all experimental things which are happening. Now, then your pressure will reduce. I think someone medical has to actually do it every hour on national television, saying, listen to, koi to sunega, WhatsApp university mein itna sab kuch aa raha hai. At least if someone says this continuously, people will calm down. Many people, I just tell these facts and they say, अच्छा ठीक, अभी शांत हो गए, 95 से ऊपर आ गया, बैठे हुए आराम. कोई otherwise oxygen.
Anurag ji, I want to say something.
Right, Sudhir.
If we can get people like Vivek ji and Velumani ji on the television, and I'm seriously saying whether it's NewsX and wherever, you can put them in good panels, rather than those two politicians criticizing it's a state issue or a central issue. If you have somebody like Vivek, and I'm telling it from my own example, how I was very shaken with my mother's report, and my sister was panicking in Mumbai. I talked to Vivek ji and he said, you don't need any one of it. You just do what I am saying to you. So I think this calming down of the nerves is very, very important. And you need healers on television debates. Can you tell your media friends today that rather than having the same jokers on every evening, they should try to find out people who can heal now?
Okay. There are two assumptions here. First, my friends in the media listen to me. That's the first assumption. Second is, I don't know who you're calling jokers. I will get offline to. This is the first joke I'll crack. It's been a very somber day. As you know, Janardhan Pandey, my friend, lost his brother today to COVID, the younger brother to COVID. So, I was throughout the day, I didn't say much to you. You gave me one good news, but, then your mother's thing. And so I agree there is I'm a very optimistic person, that I don't get phased. But last 2 days have made me think about a lot of things. And, I'm lower energy than I am normally. But I guess you're right. We need to have scientific, credible domain experts talking to viewers. And I think on a serious note, I will try and make that happen. Let me get in Sunil. Sunil, what do you think needs to be done in the immediate short term? You talked of things to be done in the near, medium term and long term. But what do you think the government can do? What can the healthcare professionals and hospitals do? And what can we do as individuals?
So, Anurag, I think most of the points have already been spoken by Sudhir and Vivek, the ones that I thought would be relevant. And a big part of it is communication. And I'm surprised that despite the fact that people have been talking about this challenge of communication in this way, nobody is still coming out and coming up with a coherent communication of how to deal with it. So communication is by far the most important thing. The second is, the government should rationalize the procedural requirement that it has in the entire supply chain. And one of them is in the lab diagnostic segment, where because of the requirement to upload the information, there is a lead time. The lead time has increased to now 3-4 days. So these kind of procedural requirements are, it has no meaning. As in my personal experience, my in-laws is the entire house is down with COVID, and there is no poster in front of their house saying that this is a COVID house. So what does it say? It says that in the entire chain, the machinery is broken down. So today, anybody can just walk out of the house, go to the market, get the stuff and be back, which wasn't the case about a year back. So if at the bottom end, if the machinery is broken down, then, what is the point of having a procedural requirement up in the value chain? What it is doing is it's increasing the lead time, in the diagnostic or testing. So, these kind of things, the procedural requirement should be done away with. The supply chain should be put in place. A very good example that was given up by Vivek, that concentrators, first of all, if you do the right communication as healers, right positive communication, that 90% of the patient can take care of themselves at home, that itself solves a big panic issue.
No, I would say, to the defense of Dr. Guleria, Dr. Devi Shetty, Dr. Naresh Trehan, I can say these three and a lot many directors. Today I saw Dr. Rana of Gangaram, and I can give names of other doctors, eminent medical entrepreneurs being on national television, on all major channels, and talking about these things. But I think we need to do it throughout the day. We need to do it in regional Indian languages. We need to do it more coherently. And I would like to ask from you, and let me start with you, Sunil. How do you think the media is doing when it comes to playing its role? Because if we don't create caution, then some people may go out. If we don't put pressure on the government by bringing real life stories of what needs to be done, then we'll fail in our role, and possibly Indian media can do its job better. So tell me honestly, I'm not looking for any, I'm not looking for a, pat on the back. I really want to understand from you, how do you think in the last 1 week, 10 days, Indian media has reported on this catastrophe?
So,
I don't have any other word.
Anurag, frankly speaking, I don't watch news channels. But from my personal experience, I can tell you one thing, that as far as the panic is concerned, now media is creating a hyper panic situation. We have enough and more around our families, close to us, to be in a panic situation. The friends of ours are struggling in the hospital. I know a friend of mine who was in the ICU yesterday, and because of paucity of oxygen, the relatives started pelting stones at the hospital. Oxygen couldn't come into the this thing, and I have been on the phone right since the morning to organize plasma, to organize bed for him, to move him. So this is enough and more for us to be panicked. And this time around, people are staying back at home, not because somebody on the media has told them or the government directive has come. They have this fear phobia now. I stepped out yesterday after 5 days to get something very important from the market. The entire market, except for grocery store, was shut. It wasn't because of directive.
I haven't even gone down, for 8 days. Today is the 8th day.
So exactly.
And my mom calls me every day. My 81-year-old mom calls me every day to ask me, I hope you've not stepped out. So I agree with you, but I'd like to hear from other panel members. Dr. Ruchi Das, I don't know if you watch Indian media. You said your heart is in India. So being in UK, or Dr. Velumani. Dr. Velumani is also a lot on Indian television, talking about things as they need to be discussed, and bringing science into the conversation and honesty into the conversation. Dr. Ruchi Das, how do you see the role of Indian media in this panic?
Well, it's not just in this panic. I think in every panic situation, I have seen media only portraying and hypering the panic even more than trying to. We are talking about people coming in and advising, and I have seen a lot of WhatsApp videos made by individual doctors trying to raise awareness. Their Instagram channels trying to tell people that, don't step out of the house, stay safe. It's not a big deal. You will get rehabilitation. The environment is so bad that everybody has a way to secure, say, an oxygen cylinder, even without any referral or without showing any ID card or a hospital information. So that's why people are going for it. There are no mechanism to combat this. And on the other hand, rather than media channels, unlike UK and everywhere else, where they are constantly passing on this message that we have enough PPE, we have enough resources, we have enough drugs and vaccination, all you have to do is stay indoors, help NHS. I have not seen any consistent, coherent message coming. So what happens is the message is different. What is happening on the ground and what people are seeing is different. There is no congruency between the efforts
But
and the
Dr.
message.
Ruchidas, I don't intend to defend anyone, neither the government nor the media. But the fact is, there are very tragic moments. There are children dying in the laps of their parents. There are mothers and dying in the laps of their children. There are people who are not getting oxygen. There are not people not getting beds. These are real stories. The media is not making them up. We are not making them up. And the purpose is to be able to put pressure on the governments to act more, for the civil society to do more, to be able to instill that caution. So let me for a moment bring these aspects into discussion.
No, I agree with you, but I think a lot that happens on social media, what is shared, and a lot that is happening on even the commercial media, which is shared, doesn't bring a change. It comes across as something that you want to share because you're either angry or resentful, or because you do not believe in the government and you want to show less support and trust towards it. But it doesn't bring about a change. And that's why media is very highly scrutinized in many of the countries, and it is kept in control, and there people do talk about their rights. But here, where everything is available free for all, are we using it judiciously is the question. I mean, last time I switched on to a Hindi media channel, the top line news was MLA ka billi chori ho gaya. I mean, this is not the kind of news I would like to tune to.
I missed this one. Sorry. It would have brought a smile. I mean, are you saying animals are not as important as human beings? Because that's a very serious thing. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, absolutely. No, so the quality of news, the quality of message that needs to be imparted, I think that responsibility. Yeah, absolutely. And right now, the priority is that everybody should get the right message. Vivek and Sunil and Dr. Venumani, or everybody in the panel, even Mr. Sudhir, mentioned that the right messaging is very, very important. I don't think COVID is such a big deal as much as it is made to be. By just staying indoors, being less anxious.
We are hitting 2,000 deaths a day. We're hitting 2,000 deaths a day, Dr. Ruchidas.
And that could be because of
500,000.
A variety. Yeah, that could be because of a variety of factors, including your own carelessness, including the government infrastructure going awry, including the supply chain, government messaging, and 100 other things. So all I'm trying to say is the loss of loved ones is something that even I cannot deal with. And I know people are angry. It is a very, very sad state of affairs right now. But for this and for the rest of the people who are still struggling and battling it, for them to make it worth their while, it is very important that we all just calm down a little bit, let the panic go away, and try and see what we can do with whatever resources we have available.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ruchidas. Dr. Velumani, your final comments, including on the role of media.
Media has segregated itself as male, female. When I say so, ruling party and opposition party. Some media only talk about or only talk for a political party, and other media only opposes that political party. This has become, there is no news there. It's manipulation there. It is their own view there. Common man also has divided into two. If I am BJP, I will only watch channel which says BJP is great, and I am belonging to Congress, then I watch that channel only. So media is not truthful. Because it is not truthful, public are not having transparency. Because truth is gone, transparency is gone, the is gone on media. So this is a very big loss. We have to rebuild that. Coming back to COVID, I must tell here, 400 days, my entire team has worked, almost some 100 of them without a single day leave, including Sundays, holidays, Gudi Padwa, any festival you take, they have not taken leave. Mind you, they are not sitting and looking after the files. They are with PPE entire duty hours, and they are dealing with the live virus, staring at it every minute. Trust me, this virus was so bad, none of them would have survived. So it's very important that we understand The virus is bad, but it isn't that you can remain panicked and get away from it. Having said that, if you don't teach your teenage child what is to be taught, the street corner fellow will teach everything. If you don't teach your public what is right and wrong, the WhatsApp university will teach. So there is a huge stress that people are learning from wrong people, wrong things, getting into so much of fake news. God, unlimited. In fact, after the arrival of COVID, the WhatsApp forwards have become probably 100x. So having said that, a credible news dissemination is very important. Either government websites do, or media televisions do, or even Twitter do. But communication is the only solution in educating or pacifying or get out of this big mess of mental health.
Thank you so much. Vivek, Sunil and Sudhir, your final comments. First Sudhir, then Vivek and then Sunil. We'll have the last word. Sudhir bhai, your final inputs on what needs to happen and how do you see the role of media?
I want to say the same. After the talk, my endeavor would be that we give information which is absolutely critical, which gives positivity, which removes all negativity, and at the same time, I don't know if any of the panelists can inform us what is the normal daily death of this country. I want to know, because if we keep on hearing this, the 2,500, which was the number for yesterday, what is the normal daily death of this country? Vivek ji, anybody knows that? Because something that will be very reassuring, like Delhi, what is the normal death day? I want to know so that I can understand that how much I should panic, how much I should calm down the other person. Is it all showing as if the earth is going to end? Is it all the civilization is going to end? So these are the questions which simple answers, Anurag bhai, we need. Very simple answers we need to be giving to ordinary person. In fact, my son asked this question that, Papa, how many people die in Delhi every day in normal circumstances?
Mr. Raja, I have some answer for it. Per 1,000, 7 people die in a year. Per 1,000, 7 people die in a year. You need to sit and calculate. Having said that, this data of before the first wave, that is 2020 and 2019, there was no significantly reported high amount of deaths because of COVID. So for the first wave, it wasn't significantly different. We created panic. But the second wave appears to be, depending upon when it is peaking and when it is coming back, whether it is significantly high or not. So it is not easy to tell in such a vast country where villages to now everywhere it is not digital. So it will take a long time for you to get the data backdated and you will get some figures. So the number is 7 people die per 1,000 per year.
Sunil, you're good at numbers. Give us a daily count. I'm sure you can give us at the end of it. Vivek, your final comments.
On the media.
Your voice is breaking, Vivek.
So, can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Better.
now better.
So I think I don't watch television channels much. I just see the newspaper front, and every day.
By the way, if you saw a certain newspaper in Delhi, the main half of the page had lots of bodies being cremated. You know, I hope you saw that. So clearly, that was, you know, the newspaper didn't make that happen. But the fact is, the newspaper showed that.
Yeah, but that everyone knows this. Why do you want to tell this and tell the gory details in front, right? Educate on the front page. You have to tell what is happening. Please do it in the next page, right? but at least the first page tell what needs to be done. That communication, if the government has given up, why is the media there? It is there to educate people. It is there. So put it in the front page. Let the bad news be in the second page. You create, what would a front, headline saying oxygen, oxygen short in top hospitals. What benefit does people get? Everyone knows there's panic. There's no incremental panic. You can, incremental.
Vivek, I will see. Media doesn't have to be a cheerleader for the government.
No,
it has to put pressure where it needs to put pressure. In fact, I would go to the fact saying that some of us become over the last few years such cheerleaders that we've not made the government accountable. Let this government or state government. So there is a purpose. There is a method to the madness. Let's not throw the baby with the bathwater. I agree. There has to be a balance. We need to focus the solution. I'm not. But I'm saying, by the way, on the same page, I read the newspaper. There are enough, valuable inputs to be able to use that for saving lives. So I would take that, but I'm sure I'll take that feedback back to my media friends. Okay. The only assumption being that they listen to me, but hopefully they will. Your final word, Sunil. Do you have a number for us?
Yeah, so I just Googled it, and the number. So March 2019, the total deaths in Delhi's 3 municipal bodies was about 9,400
in a month. That means about 300 deaths a day.
Yeah.
Roughly 31 days. So 300 deaths. We are almost 10 times of that, or at least 9 times of that now. So it is alarming.
No, it is national figure is 3.
National figure, 3,000 is national.
So sorry.
How can national figure be 8,000 a month?
No. You are saying
no. The 2,000
Sunil is telling monthly.
So I stand corrected.
For Delhi.
I stand corrected.
Monthly for Delhi.
I stand corrected. And
Batraji,
yes.
my inputs, cancer and tuberculosis, we lose daily 5,000 plus. So it is not that COVID is the only problem. But we have got undue priority for COVID, thinking that it could wipe out the humanity.
yes.
So we need to recalibrate and give importance to other things as well, because others have not stopped.
Right.
It's very important that the healthcare priorities are set right.
Thank you for highlighting that. I get that.
Anuragji, one very important point I have to make, that I read Dainik Jagran as much as I read Times of India and Economic Times. Let me tell you, Hindi newspapers are far more restrained. In today's Dainik Jagran, in a very important page, they had put it that if you have taken the first vaccine shot, your chances of getting protected, there was a complete report about it. So they are far more restrained.
Yeah, so one, they encourage you taking a vaccine shot. The second, they reassured you for those who had taken it. So thank you for bringing that. Sunil, your final points.
Yeah, so I'll give my final points. And sorry, I have a hard stop at 7:30, so I'll drop off without disturbing the flow. But my only limited view as far as media is concerned is that first of all, we should get the decibel level down, because that itself will significantly reduce the panic perception that one has, and start giving importance to the other news, that Dr. Velumani mentioned or Sudhir mentioned. So these two things itself would bring it down significantly. And then again, I completely agree with Sudhir's point of, now bringing in healers on the channel, than other people, so that is what public wants. Positivity, because that's how you'll be able to solve most of what is required to be solved right now. So, and it has to be a fine balance. Anurag, as you mentioned, that government needs to see and hear what the public wants them to. Otherwise, then there is no other way for them to realize the importance of the situation. But then again, it just needs to be in the right proportion at a lower decibel.
Thank you so much, Sunil and everyone. We kept till time till 7:30, but I'd like to wrap it up here by saying three things. One, clearly, healthcare needs more investments. And healthcare's definition needs to be expanded from hospitals to include healthcare at home, to include mental health. Second is the point that possibly we need to look at now actualizing oft-repeated number of doing 5 to 6% investments from our GDP in healthcare. The government needs to have a consistent policy. The state governments and the central government needs to work far closer. There has to be somebody really making sure that on the best practices they're implemented in every state, in every district, and there is some kind of SOP. And last but not the least, on the role of media, I think we need to be balanced in the way we bring out statistics and the way we put out information. We need people to be cautious, but at the same time, we need to make sure that we are not creating panic and we are in some way being neutral and factual and scientific about what we are reporting, and not use this as a opportunity to be able to score political points, whether we like a certain party in power or not. And dare I say, while the government has taken all the criticism it's got over the last 1 week in its stride and tried to do actions, I think there's a lot more that can be done, and I'm sure will be done as we move forward. My gratitude to Dr. Ruchi Das for joining from UK. Thank you, Dr. Das, and giving us your inputs. And clearly, telehealth, digital health, virtual health. Sunil talked about digital OPDs. I like that term. Digital OPDs, people visiting digital OPDs will ease off the pressure on the healthcare. Thank you for bringing out that point beautifully. Thank you for talking about the fact that we need to be more proactive rather than be reactive. We're not even good reactive. We need to expand the responsibility of healthcare on not just the government, but all the stakeholders. Thank you, Dr. Velmani, to your wit. And today, of course, you were a little more somber than you normally are. And I understand that. So thank you for being honest in what you said. And thank you for saying what you said. My quick takeaways from what you said would be, first, that there are other diseases that are equally important, important in the sense to be tackled, healthcare provided for that. And we also need to look at it in context of deaths from these diseases. Mr. Sudhir Mishra also brought that out. Most importantly, healthcare workers, you brought in the role of your colleagues who've been working around the clock tirelessly for the last 14 odd months to be able to be in the line of fire, literally collecting samples and doing testing. And you made the point, if they've survived, the virus is dangerous, but we need to keep in mind that most of us will survive. Of course, for any family who loses any family member, that loss is irreparable and it will cause grief. You also made the point that state governments and central government need to work together better. So thank you for bringing that in. Vivek, thank you for bringing the point that we need to take a deep breath and focus on the fact that it can be cured. And sometimes our oxygen levels may come down because we are in a panic mode. So we need to calm down, and not everybody needs to visit the hospital. It will do two things. One, it will bring down the pressure on the infrastructure. And second, you also talked about looking at healthcare providers who are not traditional hospitals as legitimate healthcare providers and encouraging them in how they increase their capacity and increasing the investments into them. Thank you, Mr. Mishra, for bringing the consciousness through you giving two very important examples. One about the fact that today, into the last day of the current Chief Justice, people worried that, the high courts which have acted as a voice for making sure that a certain action happens are not clamped down. So clearly there is a lack of trust. That's how it came out to me. And I think it's a time to restore trust in the government. It's a time to restore trust in the healthcare system. It's a time to restore faith in the media. So I think all the civil society pillars have to try harder to carry out their roles. So thank you for being a positive voice in that, and always making an effort to raise the consciousness on environment and healthcare issues. Last but not the least, thank you, Sunil, for giving us the perspective that media needs to do its job in a more balanced way, and you don't watch media, at least the news channels you said. Vivek and you read newspapers, so my newspaper friends would be happy that at least there are lots of people who read newspapers, and I'm sure they can take your testimonial. And Mr. Mishra also talked about reading more than one newspaper, so that's quite. I always look at the positives of we in the media who bring out print products would be happy. But on a serious note, Sunil talked about the fact that healthcare is also about policy consistency. We need to have that. Policy uncertainty is the biggest risk to healthcare investments, and the government and all stakeholders need to make sure there is policy certainty. So thank you for saying that. My gratitude to all the healthcare leaders who participated on the BW Healthcare podcast. And I know I've taken your time from doing actual healthcare work, so I'm very conscious. So I hope I make every minute that I've taken from you count, and in terms of the right message getting across to the right people. So thank you so much. Keep doing what you do. It makes a difference. And we look forward to having a conversation soon again. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye.